Yay! What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 219.
We are getting up there.
Man, why do we say that every week?
I don't know. Everybody's probably very sick of it.
219 times we have said that, most likely. Really fun episode tonight. Our guest is kind of legendary. Long overdue. Legendary in the sport, has been running ultras for decades, and has quite the resume. It's like, pick a tough race on planet Earth, and she's probably run it, crushed it, conquered it, or is planning to, or is picking an adventurous route to go crush at some point. Catra Corbett is going to be joining us on the show tonight. Finally, Dirt Diva, yes. as she is known to many, and special guest Truman, her lovely wonder pup, who has run many of these adventures with her, which is also I've got so many questions. And
anytime there's a dog on the show,
celebration.
It's my favorite show.
Celebration. So sit back, relax, everybody. Get ready for Ginger Runner Live, episode number 219. The show begins now. Ginger Runner. Yes, yay! Welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 219. I'm very excited about tonight's show. We are joined by a very special ultra runner. She has been running ultras for decades, just crushing distances of all varieties, from the 50K on up to like hundreds of miles. Not just a 100-miler, guys. She does those for breakfast, but hundreds. Most recently, she set the fastest known time on this really cool route we're going to find out a bit about on the show tonight, called the Muir Ramble route. I always say Muir, John Muir. Oh my God.
Catra's going to correct you.
Muir. Yeah, you hear Catra there. It is Muir. I always say that, but then like when we get to the Muir wilderness, I'm always like, Muir.
It's because you got trolled by a ranger one time. Now you have a complex about how to say it.
One time a Yosemite ranger would not let me. I was like, can we check into, our Muir campground? He's like, Muir? I was like, Muir. Like he just kept messing with me. Regardless, she just ran this Muir Ramble route, which is a 323 plus mile route, kind of from the Bay Area out towards Yosemite and beyond. We'll find out all the details and what it was like to take on such an incredible adventure. Mm-hmm. She set the fastest known time. So I can't wait to talk to Catra all about her experience, her adventures, and a lot of stuff that she's been very open about in her journey, and something that she's talked about on other podcasts and other interviews, dealing with mental health, depression, anxiety, something that hits quite close to me and to this show. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about that and how she's been inspiring a lot of people around the community to talk openly about it and to defeat the stigma. I think it's a great thing, and it's going to be a really fun show to talk to her tonight. We'll introduce her in just a second. We have a couple people to thank. First and foremost, this show would not be possible without our wonderful Patreon supporters, those who support us month after month from $1 on up. They are wonderful humans who give back to the community by helping us do this show, do our reviews, do our films, do everything here. 3 individuals in particular who are at that top tier get a shout out during Ginger Runner Live. They are amazing humans. They are ultra runners themselves. One, in fact, going to be an ultra runner
very soon.
Yeah. So big shout out to Chris Lee from Hong Kong. He runs an organization there called Trailblazer. They showcase all the trails around the community of Hong Kong. There's a huge trail scene there. They also raise funds for really great causes. They just recently screened Where Dreams Go to Die, the movie that I created following Gary Robbins. They raised over $10,000 for a local charity, which is just a fantastic cause. Chris is awesome, super kind guy, really talented runner himself that has done some pretty big distances over there. So big shout out to Chris. Rick Bjarnason and his team at cheekymonkeymedia.ca. It's a Canadian website design company. They do basically huge websites for big companies, but they also take it on themselves to do smaller websites and really cool functional websites, including the gingerrunner.com website, which we did get to sit down and go over last week, and it looks so good. They're polishing out some final details. In the next couple of weeks, you're going to see that thing in its full-fledged glory live on online. And Rick recently ran Sinister 7, is now currently prepping for Fat Dog 120. So Rick is an ultra runner, badass himself. It's great to have him on board. And finally, Mr. Brian Sands, who we've been following for a long time now. His journey, he's lost over 100 pounds. He ran his first marathon last October. He's currently training for his first ultra, the 50K, coming up in weeks. We're a handful of days now from his first attempt at the 50K. There is no doubt he's going to crush it. We're going to get him on the show and talk to him about what his journey was like. We sprung that on him during a live show a couple of weeks ago. We basically said, we're bringing Brian on.
Gonna be on the show.
He's in the chat room. He's like, wait, what? But we will get him on, I promise. So big shout out to those 3 individuals for helping to basically make sure that the Ginger Runner Live happens week after week, month after month. The wonderful humans. Thank you all, Patreon supporters. So without further ado, our guest tonight comes to us from the hot and sunny Northern California, but she has taken time out of today's busy schedule because she is in the midst of moving and like prepping for some more adventures, and Badwater is coming up. She has a really close connection to that race. Without further ado, here she is. And Truman, her lovely wonder pup, Catra Corbett.
Yay! Hi.
How are you?
Truman says hi.
Hi, Truman.
So cute. We love trail dogs, and Truman is like one of the most iconic trail dogs.
Yeah, he's pretty special. I mean, I adopted him when he was 6.5, and he couldn't even walk around the block. He was afraid of everybody and everything. And I thought, well, you know, I was working for a dachshund rescue, and I was actually getting him ready to be able to be adopted out because, you know, you work with them when the fosters come to you, and you know, assess them and get them to where they're okay to be able to be adopted. And I got to that point, and he was getting ready to go up on the website, and he actually did, and people started inquiring, and I thought, oh, I think we need each other. So and then I started training him, and he started running, and that actually kind of saved his life. He, I think, had a lot of PTSD, as dogs can get that. He lived in a house of 23 other dachshunds, so she meant well, but I mean, you can't take dogs for a walk when you have 23 dogs. And so she ended up getting rid of a bunch of them. And that's how he came to me. And I always think if that woman could see him now, she probably never, ever would imagine he'd be doing what he's doing. You know, he would have been fine sitting in somebody's lap. But no, running saved his life. I brought him out on a trail, took him off leash one day, and I said, he's either going to follow me or just stand there. And he started following me when I ran.
And I mean, I feel like I know your story, and I know that you and Truman have helped each other a lot.
Yeah,
like you talk about running saving his life, but I imagine it's been like a mutual connection between the two of you, right?
It has been, yeah. I mean, I've always had dachshunds for like the last 25 years, and none of them ran like him. I mean, my last one, he ran like 9 miles at a time, but I had no idea that he'd be doing 50Ks and pacing me at 100-mile races. So, you know, and he's 12 now. He's almost 12 and a half, and he's developed like a slight heart murmur. So I talked to his vet, and we're like, well, let's back him off the mileage. So his longest runs now, I don't take him past 15. Yeah. And he does totally fine with it. I mean, I probably could take him further, but if it's going to be something that will shorten his life, I don't want to do that. So, but we're watching it, and he's totally fine. And he's, for those of people that think that dachshunds can't run because they have these long spines and it's bad for them, no, he's vet approved by his doctor. We started getting x-rays a few years ago. Each year we get an x-ray now just of his spine to make sure there's no damage. There's not one little stitch of damage going on. And his vet says actually he would never have thought a dachshund could do what he does. And usually they're led to believe that these dogs are the notorious poster children for bad backs and, you know, hip problems and things like that. And he goes, you know what? The best thing you could do for these dogs is keep them thin and make them run. Because the exercise is what's, you know, helps them. They're not jumping when they're running, you know, they're running to the ground. So, and he said that, you know, he's totally changed the way he views a dachshund, because half the dachshunds that come in there are all overweight because people are afraid to exercise them. Yeah,
no doubt. And I mean, you look at him, and he's probably nice and aerodynamic, and that
he's
low
totally
gait.
He's like little, very thin. Whoops, that's an X rating. Yeah, he weighs like 9.5 pounds, and I keep him below, you know, under 10 pounds, and it's, you know, he eats really healthy, and the vet said that's the best thing for this breed is to actually keep them a little on the thin side. It's not like he's starving. He eats a lot, but he has a fast metabolism still.
I'm sure he eats like an ultra runner.
Yeah, he does.
Seeing as he is.
He prefers to eat what we're eating. You know, it's like the dog food. And he eats organic and gluten-free, corn-free. Because he had skin conditions when I got him because of his coloring. they go bald when they're puppies, like they
Mm.
get alopecia. And so when you touch him, people always say, "Oh my God, he feels like a baby's butt." And I'm like, well, he doesn't have any fur. It's just like skin.
Yeah.
The white patches are the longer part. And his
Oh.
coloring is called Isabella Dapple,
Okay.
which I never even heard of until I met him. I was like, I've seen every kind of dachshund, but what is he? So
I love it.
yeah,
Super unique.
he's an amazing little guy, you know, mellow as can be. He's totally chill, not like any other dachshund you would ever meet. Not a yapper, you know, he'll bark if somebody knocks on the door, but super, like I can leave him with anybody and he just sits in their lap and just wants to be pet.
I mean, we love dogs on this show. All of
I
our
know.
live viewers love dogs. We have a really close connection. Obviously, we adopted our little boy a couple of years now.
Yep.
And it's
Rescue.
been just a wonderful
Yeah.
journey as well. I do want to remind everyone that, yes, we are live with Catra Corbett. We just introduced her and Truman and Kim.
And that might have been one of my favorite intros to the show because I love talking about dogs. I
Dogs.
love talking about
Yeah.
rescue dogs, and I love talking about dogs
Rescue
that
dogs
run.
rule, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So, yes, you guys, I am Kim. I'm here as I am every Monday night. And just to remind you, we are live. So if you guys have questions for Catra or Truman, pop them into the chat room. We'll be pulling them throughout the hour.
She's already pulled a couple across here. So throughout the conversation tonight with Catra, we'll be able to ask your questions here.
The people don't want to know about me. They want to know about him. I'm sure.
There's a lot of people freaking out that there's a dog on right now. So
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
often we get like a brief glimpse at one of our ultra runner guests' dogs. Like maybe they'll pop in and like, I need food, you know, and it's like, oh yeah, this is my Goldie or my collie or something. And we'll only see him for a brief second, but I feel like Truman's going to hang out for the show.
Oh yeah, he's right here in my lap. He's
I love
chilling.
it. I love
Yeah.
it. So, Catra, we haven't had you on the show before. For those who maybe are seeing you for the first time and learning about your story for the first time, you've been running ultras for like
Since '98.
yeah, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
How
20
has
years.
the sport changed? I mean, we like to talk to people who have been running for a long time and talk to them about how the sport has changed, because you've probably seen it evolve from people just showing up and going out for a long run to spectacle and films, and like, how has it changed for you?
A lot. I mean, in the Bay Area, when I first started my very first 50K I was going to do, there was only 3 50Ks in the Bay Area. That's to tell you, like, there was a Loney 50K, there was Skyline 50K, and no, Headlands hadn't even happened yet. So there was Way Too Cool. So those were like the 3 50Ks going on in the,
Wow.
you know, in this part of California back in those days. So it obviously has changed. You can do 2 50Ks on a weekend,
Yeah.
or do a 50K and a 50 miler, you know, and there's so many to choose from. Some weekends you've got like 10 events happening, you know, just in a local area. So it has definitely grown, you know, just with the, you know, social media. I mean, back in my day, like when you wanted to sign up for a race, even my first 100 miler, Ultra Running magazine was in black and white, and there was the race entries in the back, and you cut them out and you mailed in it.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, a check.
Like,
That's how
I
you
kind of
sign
love
up.
thinking about that, like the origins of mail order ultra. I mean, you're essentially
right.
filling out a form and popping a check into the mail and hoping you
It's-
get in.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You probably did.
Nothing was selling out. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, other than Western States has always
Mhm.
been like their lottery thing. But I got in the first time I signed up. I mean, it wasn't a problem like it is now.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how you did it. You just, you know, and that's how I learned about these things. I mean, I didn't know anybody that ran. I started running, you know, and I ran 10K, and when I finished my 10K, there was a flyer for San Francisco Marathon, which was in 3 months. So I ramped from a 10K after running only for 2 weeks, running a 10K, finding a flyer on my vehicle to mail in your check for the marathon. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do a marathon. And I didn't know how far it was. I knew it was like 20 something miles. And I asked a friend, I'm like, oh, how long is a marathon? And he's like 26.2. And I said, well, I'm doing it. I'm doing San Francisco. And so I just bought a book and opened up to the chapter where it says 3 months training, like where you're supposed to be doing your long run. And it said 9 miles on Sunday. And so this is before Garmin.
Yep.
You got in your car, you set the odometer, just a little button, and I drove out 4.5 miles, and I said, okay, oh, there's a gas station there. Perfect. That's where I'll turn around tomorrow. And so that's how I started training. Yeah, there was no watch, there was no fanciness. Like we have all this cool shit now.
I love it. Like, I mean, I think the tech is cool. I think where we are now is neat, but just I've been on this nostalgia kick and like thinking back to how things used to be. There's that analog way of life that there's part of me that kind of misses that. Do you miss any of that? Like no watches and no phone or any of that? Or
well, do I miss it? No, because I don't necessarily like. I've been lately since I'm moving.
Yeah.
I usually use like an iPod, and I've been just doing all my runs without that because I want to remember each place that I've always loved to run and just smell the smells and listen to the nature and things like that. So I do run like that a lot, and I know my route, so I don't even have to wear a Garmin if I didn't want to.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and I usually just have my phone with me because I'm a volunteer for East Bay Regional Park Safety Patrol. So when I go out running, I'm on patrol. I just call in. And so if anybody has a problem come up or I need to help anybody, I can assist them. So that's the only reason I have my phone on. And of course, got to make my dance videos and, take pictures.
Well, I think that's another. Go ahead.
I always carried a camera when I ran. Even back in the day, it was the disposable ones that.
Yeah.
I mean, because the other ones were too big. But I have pictures from way back in the day because I always carried disposable cameras with me.
I mean, that's one thing that when I discovered you and heard about you and followed your story, one thing I love is that you have such a great social media presence and you do such a good job of documenting your adventures and your stories. You're very open and sharing all of your not just triumphs but struggles as well. I mean, I remember that very early on. I forget what race it was you were doing. I think it was super hot. It was a 100-miler, but you had a really rough day, and that was your whole story. You know, you would talk about things don't always go to plan, and just being open with that was it was fresh. And I remember just kind of following along. Do you enjoy that side of the sport now, like that social media and sharing?
I do, because I think, especially nowadays, everything is social media, and it kind of helps inspire other people to get out there. I mean, back in my day, I found I would look for books on running, and there wasn't a whole lot on, especially with women, because women like to read about what other women are struggling with, although, we all connect in whatever way, but there was nothing to read about women. It was like everything I would find was a book on a guy doing stuff. And so just by having the social media now, we can all connect with each other, and people, maybe feeling bad about something and thinking they're alone in their struggle. And then they'll see me talk about it or post something, and they're like, wow, wait a minute, I have that issue too. And you know what? She's, I thought she's always happy and always this or always that. And they see, and they can connect, and then they don't feel like they're alone, and it maybe helps them to get through their struggle, And nowadays too, with the social media, there's so many young people, like parents now are coming to me, and they're like, my young son or my young daughter is struggling with this or that. And, we have them following you so they don't feel like they're alone, and that they can see what you have accomplished, not doing drugs and getting away from all of that life. And they can have that life too. They just have to believe in themselves and want to, and get ready, to get onto another journey and, follow a different path. But I have no regrets. I always tell people, I was supposed to be a drug addict. I was supposed to go to jail. I was supposed to do all this crazy shit that I did to get to where I am right now.
Yeah.
Had I not been, I would have never met all these cool people or these different times in my life and got to where I am now. It all had to unfold like that, and thank God I made it out alive. Not everybody does, and I know a lot of people that have died and drug overdoses. My sister was a heroin addict, and she always used to ask me, how did you get clean and sober? Why can't I do it? And I told her, you have to find a passion. You have to find something you are passionate about, and that's the only way out. And she, unfortunately, it's you either find a way out and find a passion, or you die. And she actually died. So, and I always say, but there's always hope. Don't ever lose hope on people, because they can get it.
And we're touching on it now, and I feel like we can talk about it now. It's your story you've been very open with your story, addictions and how running has helped and shaped your life. And like what you just said, it's been this new path that I can only imagine how much it's broadened opportunities and everything like that in your life, and just been so great. you talk also very openly about depression and anxiety. As an anxiety sufferer myself, who in the last couple of years it's gotten worse, and I've been dealing with it in various ways, and I've been very open about it on the show and that sort of thing, and it's affected my running in the last couple of years. But very recently, I'm finding a new path with it. How have you been approached by other people who have struggled with the same things, and have you been able to help other people, or have other people been able to help you now that you are more open with it and talking openly about all the struggles and stuff like that? How has that sort of stuff changed?
I think I've helped a lot of people, because I mean, pretty much on a daily basis, I'll have somebody come to me and say, because my book is out now, and so they're reading and they're like, oh my God, I could totally relate to everything you're saying in there. I've been through all this stuff, and you know what, you're right. They'll pick out a quote that I mentioned in the book that I don't even remember when I'm writing it, and they're like, that is so true. And so, it's learning to know that you're not alone is a big thing, I think. And once again, it brings it back to social media. We can get help because there's so many tools on there, and just people emailing me all the time. I email people back, and it's like sometimes people, they'll start off, I know you're really busy and you're probably not going to respond, and they're like shocked that I respond. I'm like, no, it's like that one person, if you don't respond to them, may, make or break them. And you got to let people know that you care. I mean, that's part of being who you are when you are in the limelight or whatever, it's like, I always want to make sure I respond to those people, because I know how you can feel, they're just reaching out and they want help. And I always try to explain to people, there is help and to get professional help, but I'm more than happy to give them some tips and, how I stay positive, or, a lot of it, I think, is to do with diet is a huge thing. I realized when I got clean and sober, I had become vegan at the same time. But I was eating crappy vegan, like sugar. Sugar is not very good for you when you're suffering from anxiety or depression. It makes it even worse, especially just getting off of drugs. Mm-hmm. And I was on speed, so I was like as thin as a friggin' rail, I was really skinny then, and I got skinnier later when I suffered from anorexia. But once you start eating, you gain like 5 pounds, and that's a big deal when you're a woman. You're like, I'm fat, in reality, I wasn't fat at all. And, just the sugar, it messes with your mind when you're eating processed stuff, even though you're trying, I was vegan, but it was like, back then, vegan was just like shitty, crappy stuff still, I mean, there was crappy vegan food too.
I was vegan for a number of years. That was salad and French fries and candy. It was like salad, a spoonful, and then I'd eat French fries, and then I'd eat Swedish fish. Like it was, that was it. Yeah. That's a bad vegan.
But
it does, yeah.
Kind of sugar totally affects your brain. And so I tried to tell people, when you're trying to take care of yourself mentally like that, it's what you're putting into your body is going to make a difference on your mind and eating healthy. Because when you eat healthy, you feel good. It's just transitioning to that. I don't say you have to be a vegan, but just eating more greens and raw fruits and vegetables, you start feeling like you have a clearer mind. And I definitely notice, like, I'll eat French fries. When I want salty things when I'm doing 100-miler, but then you're like, that was gross. I'm eating all this greasy crap, but your body is craving that at that moment. But if I sat around and ate that all the time, I would not feel good, just mentally or physically. But I just tell people, and try natural supplements, before you get on medication. But it's of course important to be consulting with your doctor. And, I've tried every natural thing on the market, and it seems to work for me. Occasionally when I fly, I have to take in like an anxiety thing. And as I got older, it got worse. I start getting to this like point on an airplane, like where I'm going to die. I'm going to die on a way to a race in a crash. And it's all because I want to do these ultras, and it's just like you're whacked out ahead. But I've been flying since I was a little girl because my father worked for the airlines, but never, as I gotten older, it's like, So when I was going to China a couple of years ago, I told my doctor, I said, I have a feeling I'm going to really freak out. And so he goes, I'll give you a low dose of an anxiety medication, and it just makes me go to sleep on the plane. So that's the only time I usually take that, because I try to deal when I'm having those feelings by going, what is triggering that in like this move? I'm like freaking out because I'm moving to where it's like I know people in Bishop. It's not like I'm moving to the other side of the world, but with anxiety, you start like, all this stuff goes in your head. Like, I'm not going to have Mission Peak to run up every day. Oh no, I have to find a new place. But in the reality, it's so beautiful there. And it's just my stupid head. I'm like, I'm going to have, like, wait till you see all the pictures from there.
Right.
You know?
It's like that's part of the cycle is your head.
From
Yeah.
the mountain, 17 minutes, and I'm at
Nice.
9,000 feet with a lake. I'm like, I gotta get a kayak. So after my runs, I can go kayaking. You know,
That doesn't sound bad,
No.
Catra.
But in my head,
Yeah.
you know, it's like a big change. And I ask people, I'm like, how could you just like move and not know anybody? But I just need to calm myself down and say, it's not like, you know, it's a 6-hour drive away. It's like I can come back and forth and visit people. And so
It's literally just a change of scenery. It's
exactly.
just changing the backdrop. You
but
mentioned
it's the
just
next chapter of my life, so it'll be fun there.
yeah, and you mentioned just the mental side of, like, you talk about the flying, and you know, my anxiety kicks into high gear flying. But you're like, I'm so conscious of it. So like when I'm going through those panic attacks, I go, what the hell? You know better than this. Like like, what are you doing? Why are you feeling this way? You know that it's not normal, right? And like, I'm able to see, it's almost like my body, I leave my body and I can see, and I see myself. I'm like, you're an idiot for feeling the way you're feeling. And then it just like escalates. And
I do the same thing though too.
Before we get too far down, I feel like I can just riff with Catra. We have live questions. We have tons of live questions. So let's get to some of those.
Yeah, a question from Charles in the chat room. Charles says, first off, wow, you're very motivating. I'm going to have to grab your book. Catra, you're so motivating. I want to know who motivates you.
This guy. Seriously. I mean, just when I was struggling, I went through a breakup when I first got him. And I mean, I was to the point where I was just like, I don't want to live. You know, you just go through this stupid stuff. It's, you know, in your head. And I was going to a therapist, and the therapist wasn't that good at the time I was going to. In fact, it was like, he wasn't really helping me much. And it was him, Truman, who really helped me. And just seeing what a little dog can do, 9 pounds. I mean, when I take him out and I go, he's run 50K 5 times. Like, how is that possible? You know, and just his personality and just like his love for just being alive. It's like we all should take a little bit of Truman. And it's like, actually, I want to come back in another life as him. That's what I would like to. But he definitely inspires me. And there's a lot of people. The people that are older that are doing ultras, I am just so impressed by, you know, women in their 70s. There's some people in their 80s. And it's like, you know what? There is no excuse, people, because people always say, oh, I'm too old. You know, it's like, oh, shut up. Come on. You know, it's like those people are struggling and they get through it. They have the mental toughness. And it's just so amazing to see like our older ultra runners just like kicking ass and just like doing it with a smile on their face, you know?
No
so those
kidding.
people motivate me. Yeah.
No doubt. Let's get to a couple more live questions.
Yeah, a question from Nathaniel. Nathaniel asked, how do 200-mile races different from 100-mile ones? And what drives you to take on races of such distances?
First of all, they're way easier than 100 miles. I know you'll never believe me. But I have convinced, there's several people that are running their first 200s this year because they're like, you're so convincing. And I go, it's true. So the way that it's different, I always say that, so I've done a lot of fast packing, like doing long distances. Like I've done the JMT 13 times and I do it all under 7 days and I carry everything with me and I'm sleeping a lot out there, but it's just like that. You're carrying less stuff and you're doing it just more of a hiking and a run. I mean, there's some people that are running a lot more than I am out there, and you set up in your mind, like, when am I going to plan my sleep breaks? So I always tell people when you're training for your first 200, know we're going to have those sleep breaks. Don't just go into it like not knowing when you're going to have it, because then that might be your downfall. So since I run 100 milers, I know I don't need to sleep before 100 miles. And so I'll usually go to like 103 to 115 before I take a sleep break. And I'll take a 3-hour sleep break at that point. And then maybe another 80 miles later, 60 miles later, I'll take another 2-hour sleep break. And so when you get to aid stations, unlike in a 100-mile race, you go in and get out and kind of keep moving, keep your momentum going. With the 200-mile race, you're going for maybe up to 5 hours without aid. And so you're got to be self-supported out there. So when you come into an aid station, you sit down and they're making your food on the spot. They don't have all this food sitting out, but they'll say, oh, you want a vegan burger? Okay, what do you want out in Catra? No bun? Okay, perfect. And they'll whip it up on while you're sitting there, and you relax, you eat, you refuel, and then you get going again. And so to me, it's a totally different animal, and it's definitely challenging, but you feel like you're not chasing a cutoff if you're slower. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, you have so much time to finish that as long as you're moving and you're taking breaks and you're keeping fueled and you're feeling good. You could walk the whole freaking thing. People have walked a whole 200.
Right.
So with that said, I'm always telling people it is much easier because in a 100-mile race, you're actually going pretty fast. I mean, I set my time goals in my 200s and, and I meet those. And so the next time I do that same race, I'll just try to do it a little bit faster and, not linger as long. But, it's a lot of practicing to know where you're going to have your stuff too. Because in a 200-mile race, you may slow down. And if you don't plan it right, like last year at Bigfoot 200, my boyfriend was having problems. So I stayed with him because he was getting ready to pass out. He was just having all this stuff going on. And my stuff was further away because I didn't know I was going to be going as slow. And he didn't either because he had finished it in a fast time before. And so in the middle of the night, he had to lay down and sleep, and I didn't have warm clothes, and we were just like sitting there. He was able to pass out and sleep. And so I tell everybody, put one of everything in each one of your drop bags. This way you don't have to worry that like, oh crap, I don't have what I need. Because that could be a breaker for you out there. That could break your race, you can end up dropping out because of it. And there is a higher finishing rate in 200s too.
I was gonna say, man, like this is such unique advice because for 100, you think about there's a couple races that you do have gaps of 5 hours or more. There are races out there that
like
do
even Wasatch, you go for a long time for
Wasatch. I'm thinking Plain. These other big hundreds that are raw. But it's unique advice to like have to pack very individual things in all of your drop bags because yes, you don't know when you're gonna need to take like a 4-hour nap on the trail or Fast packing is like what people liken it to, and it seems that that's pretty much the most similar case.
It is. That's what I would say. It's like fast packing, but you're going a lot lighter than you would when you're, because I carry about a 16-pound pack with my food out on a, fast pack. And out there, obviously, you're carrying less, but you just need to have lightweight gear that's going to protect you when you need it. When you're out there, you have a pair of pants with you at all times, have like a puffy jacket that folds up pretty small, and gloves, and you'll be fine. Because last year too at Moab 240, it was like 9 degrees out there. Yeah, I was expecting cold, but I was never expecting that cold in the middle of the night. I was like zipped up, like breathing inside of my jacket to like make warmth. I borrowed my boyfriend's pants. I'm like, you got to give me your pants. I don't have any pants on.
Oh my god!
Pants. I had a skirt on. Until we got to the next aid station, but it was freaking cold.
Like as I'm just talking to Catra, I'm also realizing you probably have thousands of stories of like, oh yeah, we were stuck out there at 9-degree temperatures and no pants.
And I do. So
whatever.
My next book is going to be just all stories.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to do that because my first book is all about my life, and there's quite a few stories in there, but it's more about like who I am and how I became this. And I really want my stories because I have such great stories.
I mean, I can tell.
Going south.
I mean, we're just scratching the baby surface. Tell me more about how you didn't have pants in 9-degree weather.
Come to Bishop and run.
That's a perfect
visit Bishop.
Perfect excuse. We've only driven through Bishop, and it was not a great trip. There was a lot of circumstances around it that were like, why are we here? But we drove through and like, oh, we got to stop, and we didn't get a chance to stop. Regardless, let's get to one more live question, and then we're going to talk to Catra about the Muir
Ramble route.
This ranger has messed up my mind for years. Okay, sorry.
Question from Baz Green in the chat room. Baz asks, how much of your training is maintenance of base mileage and how much is event specific? Once you've got the long miles nailed, do you just tweak the specializations, i.e. hot, far, steep altitude?
Yeah, great question, especially for someone like you.
Yeah. So I'm always trained for an event. And I used to say this because early on when I started running a lot of hundreds, it was like I was always ready for the next 100. So with like something like I ran Badwater last year and I just did the Kokopelli 150-mile stage race. So I specifically heat trained. I went in the sauna and I would go out with just like my Badwater training with multiple layers of clothing on, beanie, gloves, Gore-Tex jacket, out in the wilderness, people looking at you like you're nuts, and one of my friends is training for Badwater, so we'd go out together because I'm a crew chief, and I'm like, let's go together. We can look like idiots together. And people are just like, what is wrong with these people? So specifically, yeah, that. And I do a lot of trail and a lot of climbing. So, now I'll be moving to Bishop, so I'll be able to get a lot more altitude and a lot more longer climbs in for the 200s. And I think I need to focus on getting faster on my downhill. As I've gotten older, it's like I for whatever reason, like my eyesight is not as good. So at night, I actually even wear glasses for driving at night. But I notice when I wear them at night in the 200s, I can see better and I move better. So I just got to get over that fear again of trying to go really super fast at night. I used to be fearless. When you're younger, you're like, whatever, fall. So I'll be training a lot more for more downhill so I can pick up on my speed again. But yeah, cool. I've always trained, so I don't really have to do very much other than like, specific heat training. And, there's not a lot you need to do to train differently if you've already run hundreds for the 200s. And there's been people that have never run an ultra and then go to a 200 and finish. So that's saying, like I said, it's the higher percentage rate. It's just you have to know, yeah, you're going to be gross and dirty and wake, not a lot of sleep in the, 110 hours you get to finish it, but it's totally doable.
Yeah.
Doable.
I want to start talking about the Muir Ramble route. I'm super curious how you came across this cool adventure, kind of to give us the brief synopsis of what it is, the mileage, and what it was going to be to undertake such an adventure.
So I was in REI like in 2010, and there was this book, Muir Ramble route. And I thought, what is this? I never heard of that. I've done the John Muir Trail, like I said, 13 times, and I have an out and back record. The yo-yo, it still stands because nobody's stupid enough to turn around and go back to Yosemite. So that's the only reason. So I saw that and it caught my eye, and I thought, what is this? And I kind of started skimming through it, and I was like, wait, it's 310 miles. I'm going to do this someday. So I bought the book and I read up on it, and it was like, pretty much told you exactly where to go, where you start. So about the route itself. So John Muir, and it's been 150 years ago this year that he came to California for the very first time. And his goal was to go to Yosemite. And he didn't want to go via the normal way that people took when they arrived in San Francisco. They took the ferry, and then they got to Oakland, and they took a train, and then they took the horse carriage or whatever and horses and into Yosemite that way. So when he came with in his mind, like, I want to go the wild route where nobody goes. I want to go away from all of the people and see these things. And he was a botanist, so he wanted to see the plants and the things. So he arrived in San Francisco and he took the ferry, and that's what I did. I did exactly like he did. So I got on the ferry and went to Oakland, and that's where I started my run. So anyways, the couple did all this research. The woman wanted to go from her house in Santa Cruz to Yosemite and hike it. And then she goes, wait a minute, John Muir, let's look into this. So she and her husband did all this research and put together this book on the closest route that they could find, keeping you in wilder places without putting you on the highway as much and the city streets. I mean, you had to do some of that, but it ran mostly along like the shore of the bay all the way to my house in Fremont, and then went along, canals and things like that into Henry Code, which is a state park. And that was a long, hard section. And that was 43 miles, that section of just wilderness. Wow. Like, you had to pump your, filter your water. And then up these horrendous fire breaks. Okay, I was thinking fire roads when I was reading the book until I got on these things. I'm like, why the fuck can't we just stay along the highway of the Pacheco Pass? Because that's exactly what she gave you the option in the book. And it was just because of the traffic, you kind of, just to keep you away from cars, because you want to feel like you're in the wilderness too. Sure. But it used to be a toll road. So, but oh my God, fire breaks. I mean, it was straight up and straight down. I mean, I was literally on my hands and knees. So my friend Dave, who was one of my crew members, he's doing a small, short, like little documentary on it. So he was
Cool.
filming it, but I was just like, what the fuck is this? This is ridiculous. It was just recently, like they went through with a tractor. So it was super thick dust. I mean, it was just, it was, and all you could see is you're looking and you see the reservoir and you just see the highway. And so eventually you end up on this highway, and then it goes along canals, and then it goes the back way through this place called Coulterville into Yosemite on these old abandoned roads. So you basically, there's the very first roads that were open in Yosemite. You go along these that are no longer in existence. There's, some of them are fire road, but the very last section was on the old Big Oak Flat Road, and part of it was even missing. And I had went there a year before because I'm like, okay, I want to see this section before I do it to know that, like, how hard is this route finding area. And part of it, like, actually was even gone more than when I was there before. And I almost quit, like, sat and stopped. And I'm like, we can't do this. This is too dangerous. And Dave's like, no, we didn't come this far, because my crew ended up doing the last 66 miles with me because we had no car.
Wow.
at
Oh,
that
God.
point.
Oh, God.
So they fast packed. We slept on the ground. I mean, this was just, it was another great story. I mean, just being out there. So Dave had to carry all this camera equipment and stuff, and they had to sleep. I'm like, nobody's bringing a nice comfy mat. We're just going to lay on our, blankets, our little Mylar things, and we'll have a sleeping bag and we'll put over us. And so we like slept one night together out in the wilderness. And so it was really fun. But anyway, so we got to this one section where I pretty much was almost like, I can't go, because there was nowhere to go, and it was straight up, and it looked very like the scree was really bad because it was a recent fall, and this road has been closed since 1930. So
is there even, I mean, it's not concrete, right? Like, we're talking road, and it's probably just cut in a hillside, right? Like, it's maybe a shelf.
You can see patches of road along this, and it's overgrown, trees growing on it.
Wow.
I mean, but it's this view that a lot of photographers will hike up to some of it to get this view of El Cap that you don't usually get in a photograph because it puts you so close to it. So, I mean, some of my pictures, you'll see a lot of rocks over there. That's where we were at. We were actually climbing over boulders the size of like refrigerators.
Wow.
Try not to launch them.
God.
Yeah.
And this is like the last few miles, right?
The last section, yeah. And then you end up on the valley floor and you run to the little I keep forgetting the name of it. It used to be called LeConte Memorial. They've changed all the names in Yosemite when they got sued by the, so it's called something else, the Conservatory something. So that's where I finished, but it was closed because I'm like, I want to sign the book because I'm the first person to run it. And so I'm going to go back on the 28th and go in and sign the book. So yeah, there's an actual book called the Muir Ramble Route, and you can buy it online, and anybody else is welcome to do it. And what a funny story is, so I had to email the couple. I'm like, I'm going to run this thing. And they're like, well, as far as we know, there's only like 3 people that have walked it, us and another guy. And then there's a few people that have biked it. And I'm like, you're obviously going to be the first person to run it. And they were like really impressed. And I was out there, and all over our vehicle, we wrote, Muir Ramble Route, FKT, whatever, my name and all that. So this woman and these 2 women drive up, and I was sitting behind the car getting my crew to get my food and stuff, and my boyfriend walked over, and she's like, is somebody doing the Muir Ramble route? And he's like, yeah, my girlfriend's doing it. And she's like, wait, I'm doing it too. So this woman was walking it. She started in San Francisco. She's a school teacher there, and she's doing 10 miles a day. She started on June 11th.
Wow.
So it was just like, nobody's hardly ever done this route, like I said, and it was so cool to meet her. And then I'm able to message her, have her phone number to tell her the route finding, because there was actually quite a few areas that were like completely, there's no trail and it's overgrown, and you were cross countrying, and it was, but luckily we had our like Gaia maps, and we were like on it. We're like, okay, if we go straight up that way, we'll get there. So, and I told the couple who wrote the book too, I'm like, you should put that on your website, maybe. Some route finding.
This is incredible. Like to know that you're on such an adventure. I mean, how far were you from amenities at like your furthest, deepest, wildest point?
Probably when we were in Henrico, because that was like a all trail section, and actually it was only supposed to be 38 miles, but this old entrance called the Dowdy entrance, you can't even drive in there anymore, so you have to go another 7 miles to get to the road.
Oh wow.
So, and my friend Jay, that was the longest he's ever gone. He's not done any ultras, but he did like 2 ultras that week with me, just pacing me. And he's done 150K. And he just did the Cocapelli and he came in second or third. And I'm like, dude, you have to do a 50 mile or 100. I mean, just jump up to 100. I mean,
at this point, do a 200. They're easier.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, you still were close to stuff. It wasn't, I guess in the Yosemite area where we came in the back roads, it was really crazy because it's like I drive, when I go to Yosemite, and I've run to Yosemite from my house, which was only 200 miles, and it was a different route. But I had no idea there was all these other like fire roads on this side and that way that you could get into all this really cool wilderness. And so when we arrived to Yosemite, we came the only way that you don't have to pay to get in is where we hiked in from the Coulterville. That area is the only way you can get into Yosemite without having to pay. So.
We'll make sure no one knows that you didn't pay.
Yeah. Well, they don't care. I mean, we had to run.
You didn't have a car. Yeah, you're right. You're on foot.
Yeah, no car can go out there. So it was pretty cool just being in these weird little back area places. Like, who else comes back here? We didn't see a soul, except for, it was 4th of July at one point, and we seen like some RVs go up to like a camp area, but pretty much back there it was just like when people would see us, it was like, where
did you come from?
They didn't even want to say anything to us.
I mean, that sort of thing fascinates me too. Is Yosemite is there's so much history there, and a lot of our national parks have very similar history. But I can't even imagine being back in the wilderness of Yosemite and like seeing any signs of civilization from decades past. So you're on a road. So cool.
Yeah,
that
it's not
doesn't
really,
exist.
You could see patches of the asphalt, which is really cool because you're like, people came in horse-drawn buggies, but then they started with the event of automobiles. That was actually an automobile road, and it had these switchbacks that went like this. I'm like, when they had the rock falls, that's when they ended up closing that road because there was no way you could drive through. But I look at old pictures and I'm like, how crazy was that for them to even drive an automobile? And what if you had to go back out? I mean, there wasn't 2 lanes. I don't know how they dealt with this.
Wow. So that's the route that you took in.
When people go to Yosemite, I think everybody should try to do. It's called the Old Big Oak Flat Road, and you can actually go. It's about from one end to the very end. I think it's almost about 30 miles.
Okay.
I jumped in the middle section, but I have done the first part section because that wasn't in part of the book because it came in from another way. But it's pretty cool to go on it because you can. You can follow it. You just have to be route finding, and if you have a app, it'll show it on the app too.
I feel like I remember this. If you're coming into Tunnel View and you're coming down into the valley, is it on your left-hand side? Does it come up the valley on that side?
So it's coming in from the 120 from the Tuolumne side.
Yeah.
It's on the left, and you can't. If you look up, you could. If you're at Camp 4, you know where Camp 4 is.
Yeah.
Famous climber stuff. All that rock fell on the left before you get to Camp 4, right before El Cap Meadow. Up on the left, that is actually the old road is up there.
Really?
You just can't see it. The road's not there. You have to climb all over those freaking boulders.
What an interesting route into the park, too.
It's really cool.
So I can't, the feat is incredible, Catra. The 323 mile, it sounds like it. Like I'm sitting here going, what are we doing next weekend? Do the Ramble route.
Just get your friends and have them help you and go.
No big deal. It's super impressive. I mean, your resume, of course, is insane. Just the amount of races that you've run and your accomplishments. But it's cool to see you take on adventures and challenges that are unique and obscure and fun. What's next? What's next for Catra?
Well, so I'm doing the Triple Crown of 200s. That's coming up. So starting.
Very few people have done that. Has anyone done it?
Yeah, they have.
There's a couple.
The last 2 years, she's had it up there.
Okay.
So I think the first year maybe 5 people did it, and then last year maybe 10. There's like 23 of us signed up this year.
Sweet.
So for all 3 of them, but I'm also me and my little mind when I see things, I found this route called the El Camino Sierra. So it's all road, but it's 424 miles. It starts in LA and goes to Tahoe. So it's the 150th anniversary of that too. So it used to be a way that people would come and drive to Tahoe from LA way back 150 years ago.
Whoa.
So there's actually, yeah. So when I was in Bishop, I'm like, what's this little emblem I keep seeing that says Sierra, El Camino Sierra? I'm like, what the hell is this? And I Googled it right away when I saw this sign in Bishop, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I got to know about it. And I was like, oh, 424 miles. I'm like, I'm going to run that. So I'm going to try to do that in between my 200s in September. So I talked to my other two crew guys, Jay and Dave, and they're like, yeah, we're on board, and so we'll do it the same way, like this time I'll try to run more instead of, it won't be all route finding, but it'll be like 50 miles a day and just get it done. And I can't find anybody that has run it. It's an automobile route that people drive, and people have biked it. I have found that. And so why not? It's there,
I love that. Why
And
not?
I go right by my
It's
house
there.
in Bishop, and I can spend the night there at some point and get food. And
Catra, thank you for making it simple, though. Why not? It's there.
Yeah, totally.
I love
That's how
that.
it is. And I used to always say, I hate road, I hate road, I hate road. And that's why I never did. People assumed I ran Badwater. So when Chris called my name last year when I entered, he goes, all of you assume she's run this race. She hasn't, because people see me there so many years crewing people. I'm like, I don't run the road. I don't run the road. And then I ran across the United States for mental health awareness with my team. And then I was like, man, I got to run. All right, I'm going to sign up for Badwater next year. And that's why I ran it, because Chris is like, you're running road. And I'm like, I know. So now I'm just kind of embracing that, because you see some cool stuff, and people do approach you when you're out there. They're just like, where are you going?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? And it's like, just 424 miles running to
no big deal.
Whatever.
Why?
But
Because it's there.
a challenge, It's like,
for sure.
I always want to have a challenge, something different. And then it inspires other people to do it. I've been doing these birthday runs since I turned 40, and it's not 40 miles. I started with 40 hours. So I've done that every year. And I thought, when I turn 50, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I'm 53 now. I'm going to be 54 this year. And I'm like, fuck, why do I keep doing this?
You've already set it up. Yeah.
Other people.
True.
So my friend, Roberta, who's on Facebook, she's turning 59. And so she's going to run on her treadmill. She loves running on her treadmill. So she's going to do a 59-hour treadmill thing. And because of seeing that I do this birthday thing every year, she's like, I'm going to raise money for the, dogs, for rescue senior dogs. And she's doing that. And then, so next year, that's why I was freaking out too. I'm like, I'm not going to be in Fremont to do, my Mission Peak and have my house as an aid station. That's okay. I'll make a route in Bishop and do loops and come home and hopefully my friends will come out to Bishop to help me, because I'm so used to them being able to help me here. But regardless, I'll be out there for 54 hours in Bishop doing the birthday challenge in December.
That is so awesome. Like, I love it. Catra, you've inspired us for years. Like, just even following along on social media. Like we talked before the show started, it feels like we know each other, even though...
Yeah, you do. Just 'cause you know so much about people.
Yeah, you end up learning a lot just, through reading captions and stuff like that. But at the same point, it's like you're bringing us along on some of these adventures, and it's a joy. Because I may never run this Ramble route. Maybe someday I will.
Should.
Right, of course.
It's there.
It's there.
It's there?
There's no reason why.
I'll crew you.
Stop making it easy.
Logistics.
Oh.
Anybody who wants to do it, I can help them, because I had the best crew that knew, like, they were really good at the route finding stuff. They were on it. All I had to do was run, and they're like, okay, you got to do this. Coming up is going to be this, and so it was perfect. Those guys rock.
Doing what you're doing. You're defeating the stigma first and foremost. Like, you're doing wonderful things for mental health awareness. You've helped me be able to confront what I've dealt with since I was a kid and actually talk about it. I know that you're doing this for countless people, not just myself. And you're inspiring people to do things that they maybe aren't comfortable doing, like running long distances and proving to themselves it's possible. So don't you dare stop. We love following along, and there's lots of people that love it. We've already got people in the chat room that are like, I bought her book.
That's what I was just going to bring up, that there's been multiple people saying that they're buying your book right now.
Truman's on it.
Yes. Grab it if you have not already. It's a great read. Before we let Catra go, we like to do something with our first-time guests on the show called the Quickie Question Quiz.
I still can't believe this is Catra's first time on the show.
I know. You better have me again after I do the El Camino Sierra.
You keep crushing it, and we'll keep having you on and just sitting here like with our mouths agape. Like, how? But of course, we will have Catra join us for the post show. So if you're a Patreon supporter at $1 or above, any level, you will get to join us for the post show to ask lots more questions of Catra. We have all the questions we pulled aside from the show here. We're going to rapid fire through them. But before we move into the post show, Catra, this is something we do with all of our first time guests. We have 10 very, very quick, very easy questions. You just got to answer with the first fastest thing that comes to your mind. Okay. You let me know when you're ready with the thumbs up. Here we go. What was your very first race?
Carousel to Coaster 10K.
Favorite place to run currently?
Yosemite.
Road or trails?
Trails.
Bucket list race?
Mount Blanc.
Ooh. Favorite running movie?
Running on the Sun.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure TV show?
Oh, Alone. I'm binge watching that.
Pre-race meal?
Salad.
Post-race indulgence?
Diet vegan gluten-free pizza.
And finally, what are your current running kicks?
Hoka.
Love it. Easy.
The Torrents.
I was going to say, it was the Torrents, the new Torrents.
The Torrents. Oh my God, I'm loving them.
Nice.
Super lightweight.
I wore those
You
today.
wore yours
Fantastic.
today, yeah.
I thought I lost my pair. I found them this morning, and I wore them
good.
today. Kim found them for me. I did not find them.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations, Catra. You passed.
Yay, thank you.
Remind people where they can find you on social media. They can follow along with your adventures, and maybe where they can reach out. Websites, Twitter, Instagrams, all that stuff. Where can they find you?
I have all of those. I have, what are my handles? You put me on the spot. Twitter is DirtDiva33. Instagram is DirtDiva333. I have an athlete page on Facebook that they can follow me on there. And then if they want to actually order an autographed copy, they can email me at dirtdiva333@gmail.com. I'm out of books right now, but I should be having some coming in the next couple of weeks. But if they want to wait and get an autographed copy, also I'll be doing a book promotion tour. I'll be at the on August 4th at Trails in Motion Film Festival in Sunnyvale. And then they can look at the REIs in the Bay Area. I'll be promoting at all of those in the next couple of months too.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Catra, for joining us on the show. Finally, finally for getting you. We are going to move into the post show, so we'll have a couple questions with Catra before we let her go completely. But if you have not, consider it. Patreon.com/thegingernunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get to join us for all of our post shows with all of our guests, tonight included. The link is already posted there, so we'll see all of you Patreon crew in just a couple of seconds. That is it for tonight's show. Wonderful episode. I am inspired. I want to pick something crazy and run it, hike it, walk it,
200
suffer through it. Why not? Let's double it. I want to run two 200s. Oh my God. We're going to move into the post show here. Am I forgetting anything, Kim?
I think that's it.
I think that is it as well. We'll see you guys next week for more Ginger Runner Live, movies and reviews and all that good stuff happening. Otherwise, we'll see you Patreon supporters in the post show here in just a couple of seconds. Get out there, guys. Train hard, race harder, and play the hardest. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Ginger Run.